Well, you go to 17th Street, and that gets you right working a little bit more creatively. When you sit down and come up with the series, how much of that creation are you a part of?
So you basically, I mean, it would vary, but you would basically kind of, the way we worked it was we would kind of come up with this sort of proposal, and it would be like, here's the basic gist of the story, or here's kind of the pitch, if you were going to tell somebody about it in the elevator pitch. And then here's kind of maybe some major characters that kind of work through the series. Um, we'd kind of like use some visuals to try to get, it would be a document, nothing nothing high tech or fancy, and we just try to capture sort of a tone, maybe like a basic outline of the plot to some extent, not necessarily. And then we would either be sort of working with a freelance writer in tandem already, or we would sort of, you know, talk to the publishers about, this is the kind of idea, what do you think? And then sort of together we would look for good fits for freelance writers. And that model really changed, I think. So 17th Street Productions had really made their mark with the Sweet Valley Twins series back in like the 80s. And so when I came in the late 90s, that model was really shifting, because people, I think the young adult market particularly, was looking for a lot more sophistication and voice, and a lot more uniqueness, and a lot more quirk. And so I think that's shifted a lot now. I think that those projects are a lot more author driven than probably editor driven, is my guess. Although I've been out of that business a long time, so I'm not sure. But we were just sort of on the cusp where it was sort of changing. And I think probably they kind of, my guess is they reach out more to authors now to kind of generate, and then the editors kind of work with them creatively.
That makes sense. As you're talking, I'm wondering, well, if you've already got the plot, the characters, and the tone, what do you need an author for? Just sit down and hammer that thing out.
I mean, I used to think that, and then I started writing full time, and I was like, wait a second, like this is so hard. Like, they're both huge tasks, I would say.
I'm being a little bit glib, but it sounds like a lot, and it would be, and this might just be my own personal uh, hang up, but it would be difficult, I would think, as an author to come in and like, wait, I have to do this tone. I can't have my own character. I can't change this. How much? Give me some freedom. I mean, let me do one thing. Even if I'm working with existing IP, if you let me write a Batman story, wonderful. All my life, I wanted to write a Batman story. First thing I'm going to do, Banneker Bones, Batman crossover. Let me bring in some character that's not a part of this universe and blow this up a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I think it's a tough, it can be a really strange fit when the circumstances are not right, for sure.
that coming up with that stuff, when do you finally get the confidence, one, to share your work with somebody else, and then two, to write something that's not just a journal to help you process the world, but actual fiction?
So yeah, I think it was through having some success with some of those projects that I was working on as an editor, and doing a lot of kind of brainstorming for, and working sort of in partnership with the writers. I think that seeing those things, kind of the fruit that came of those things and those projects, just started to kind of, that was really the first time that I started to seriously entertain the idea of writing for myself. And so I started talking to them. I also, just for other reasons, was planning to leave New York. And I started talking to them about, whether I might leave and kind of write something for this production company. And so I did. I wrote under a pseudonym a group of 4 books. I don't know if I'm going to say the name of the books or not. They're pretty bad. And I remember my first review was like, mediocre characters cannot save the like plot, something just terrible, terrible review. And I definitely, I was writing I was writing my first books when I moved to Atlanta, and I worked as a temp at a industrial gases corporation, and I wrote those books on the side. And I couldn't, I used to only cook, this is a pitiful story, but I used to cook like all my dinner. Like I would cook pasta every night in my coffee pot because I couldn't afford the gas for my stove. And I was pretty bad at writing, but I just still loved it. And so I remember at one point saying to my best friend, who's sort of in the industry, he works in movies, but I was saying, I think I'm not cut out for this. I'm going to just sort of pack it in. And he was sort of the one who was like, you just have to keep going, keep going. And so I did. And then the next kind of couple of books that I wrote, I really felt like I leveled up just by working on my mechanics. And so I wrote the first of a trilogy called Maybird and the Ever After. And then I wrote a book called Peaches. And that was sort of the first time I felt like I was getting somewhere with my writing.
Very, very jealous that you get to bury your first works under a pseudonym. And I don't know, are you able to separate yourself when that bad review comes? But well, it's their bad review, not necessarily mine. How do you get up off the floor and write something new after that?
I wish I could separate that from myself, but no, I'm very much that person. And I don't know. I feel like it's like you have to kind of get a bunch of stuff out. Like for me, I think what was really maybe not ideal about those early books was that I was it was all angst. I was just like, let me get all this angst. And I'm pro angst. Like I love to write about sadness and darkness and all of the things that are painful. But I think at that point, I hadn't yet developed the idea that I also need to contrast that in my stories with the light and the humor and the glittering things that are also true. And so I think that, I don't know, I think that when we're often first writing, we have so much that's built up inside. And I remember just wanting to sort of get it all down. And I thought that was all there was that I was ever going to write about. But I think, that evolved. And I mean, gosh, we all, most of us, I would hope, like write bad early drafts of things. I know most of my writer friends and we all struggle with that. But hopefully we just keep working and keep improving what we're doing.
Try to always remember that if there's no first draft, then you don't have anything to revise or rewrite. There's nothing to improve. So it's okay that it's going to be bad. Nobody's going to see it except trusted people. If them, I don't do that to my friends or my critique partners anymore. You're not going to get a first draft. Let me get to 3 or 4, and then you can take a look at it. Let me at least correct the spelling.
Totally. Same.
Then they can say to me, Rob, this is terrible, but it is spelled correctly all the way through. I really appreciate that. Correct facts and the nice grammar. That was great.
I really admired your spelling.
This was written in English, which I speak that language, so it was really easy for me to read. I appreciate that part of it.
I love it.